You're welcome to another edition of Motherland. Do well to like and subscribe in order to help this channel grow. Today, we'll be looking at why the Occupy Nigerian protest in 2012 was successful. The idea of a revolution against an unpopular government is always a fascination in the mind of many Nigerians, and under Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not an exception. The process, however, is a matter of precise incidents and individuals, and lessons can be learned from the Occupy Nigeria of 2012. I've learned over time that historical phenomena happen in the view of many, but it takes keen perception to understand the moment in history and also factor in the circumstances that birth it. All days come from one day, is what Ian said in one of her songs. Reverse also true. One day comes from all days. And before Occupied Nigeria happened in January of 2012, there was another huge, popular and highly successful revolution of sorts that led to changes in Aso Rock. The Save Nigerian protests of 2010, which took the Tura Yar'Adua cabal down. The 2010 protests had the crucial backing of a section of the ruling power elite. At that time, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan as vice president was in support of it, and it was easy for Dr. Tunde Bakare to champion that, causing along with others, because no mass protest is as sweet as one with backing from above. I use the word from above to indicate a section of the power elite which supported Goodluck Ebele Jonathan versus the cabal. Also, Dr. Tunde Bakare outside his pastoral office to analyze him as a political factor of that time, not as a clergyman. Certain peculiar events and persons birthed Occupy Nigeria. Many can understand the role of Bakare in the protests and revolutions, but that nobody in his clergy world could protest against his political moves during the Save Nigerian protest was based on who the man has proven to be in Christian world. He was a gadfly or a maverick. When in 1998 or so, the Redeemed Christian Church of God started a program and tagged it Holy Ghost Festival, Lekki 98, Bakare mounted the pulpit and declared it was a worship of Mami Water. That's why they did it at the beach and called it a festival. The following year, they changed name and venue. Much before then, Bakare had mounted his pulpit and turned Oyedepo's book into pieces because of some things he disagreed with. When Oyedepo challenged him on why he tore his book, Bakare said it was his book because he had paid for the copy he tore. So when a man like that leads a political movement, other clergymen won't talk because he will give you hot. And the Save Nigeria movement was very successful, enabling Nigerians to believe in the power of their protest, which Occupy Nigeria would capitalize on. Shortly after the success of that movement, Tunde Bakare and Yinka Odumaki met with President Goodluck Jonathan and told him to use his power to deal with the enemies of Nigeria. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan refused and said he wouldn't use up to a certain percentage of his power as president. Bakare left the villa angry. His vision of a popular revolution betting a messiah was dashed by a pusillanimous president. Aso Rock then made the mistake of sending him and others thanks for coming in dollars. He publicly excoriated Jonathan and co. Next thing was CPC. Bakare pairing with Buhari was the legitimization of Buhari in the southwest, but their loss in 2011 wasn't the major catalyst of Occupy Nigeria the following year. In September 2011, a hugely popular mass uprising rocked America, and it was called Occupy Wall Street. Also in that year, the Arabian Upstream Revolution picked up steam as many Muslim countries rose against the authorities. This event massively influenced Occupy Nigeria, but it still wouldn't have happened until those in power provided the perfect excuse for the same thing to happen. Bakare has lost faith in Goodluck Ebele Jonathan since the unfortunate meeting in Aso Rock and had been denouncing him publicly as a sort of false messiah. Goodluck Jonathan then went on and increased fuel price from 65 naira to at least 140 naira a total removal, which even Olusegun Obasanjo didn't attempt. Obasanjo increased petroleum prices at record number of times, about 6 different times in the space of 8 years. Even during the last one on May 27, 2 days just before he handed over power, but he never attempted to remove the entire subsidy at once. Worst thing about that subsidy removal was the timing. It was done on January 1st, when many people had traveled from their places of work to their home states. And nobody travels more during that period than Goodluck Jonathan's then political base, the Southeast and the South-South. And they were most affected. NLC, Nigerian Labour Congress, quickly swung into action, declaring perhaps the most popular strike action in that period of national history. People were legit stranded far away from their workstations, so the first week of 2012, which preceded the strike, was more or less like a strike also. The fuel price increase was about 120%. So if you bought fuel for 5,000 naira to fuel your tank for a trip homewards, you then needed over 10,000 to do the same back to base. Factor in hoarding and scarcity, and you could easily have needed 20,000 naira. Everyone was angry. Then politics took over. Politically, Nigerian voters had less than a year before rejecting Buhari and Bakari and voted Goodluck Jonathan. Now he had increased fuel prices and looked like the Rehoboam whom Bakari had likened him to before. In the eyes of the voters, who now felt used, betrayed and dumped politically, Buhari based up north were already looking and learning from the Arab Spring. Tunisia, Libya and Egypt had changed leaders by popular revolt. Surely Nigeria could also do the same. Then there was a certain Bola Tinubu, also in Lagos, who had built structures seemingly from this movement. Tinubu had built strong media relationships since his 1999-2000 battles with Gani Fawemi, then entered into media space as a proprietor himself with The Nation and TVC. The latter, which was built on the land where Laspotech was to be sited in Ketu. All these came together to make matters worse. Even in PDP, Goodluck Jonathan had inadvertently lost the support of the House of Representatives, where rather than back the initial Southwest choice, Murenia Ajibola from Oyo State, some women had approached the then First Lady to champion the cause of Mulikat Akonde, and Goodluck Jonathan agreed. It was a victory for women in politics, but the majority of PDP House members pulled back and supported Aminu Tambawa instead, and he won. However, Aso Rock made it clear from June 2011 that the executive wasn't comfortable working with Tambawa as Speaker of the House of Representatives. The governors, who had all agreed for fuel subsidy removal in the past, including Adams Oshomole and Fashola, soon showed Goodluck Jonathan the other face of politics as they denounced the move entirely, and publicly so, saying they were still in exploration stage, not implementation. Meanwhile, a major section of Nigerian youths had seen their mates in Occupy Wall Street and maybe Arab Springs too. They decided to form groups to join Occupy Nigeria. That is where Enough is Enough was birthed, along with many other activist groups. I supported the fuel subsidy removal back then in principle and was against the Occupy Nigeria madness, but TVC daily fed us with live coverage from Ojota and other centers of the protests. Port Harcourt initially joined, in fact, until they saw that it became politically against Goodluck Jonathan. From the first or second day of the protest, police killed somebody, Ademola Oyerinde or so, and it started to look like Goodluck Jonathan was a tyrant using police to horn citizens. But the leaders of the struggle knew Goodluck Jonathan was not brutal. He had told Bakari he wouldn't use power harshly. They were emboldened to call Goodluck Jonathan names. More and more artists and popular figures joined them daily, performing to the delight of audiences. Some of my friends, bored at playing street football till the sun became too intense around 10 a.m., also trekked to National Stadium. I remember some guys back then who were interviewed and they had trekked and hitch ride from Ikorodu to Ojota. Politicians gladly supplied refreshments to the crowd there in the Surulere Stadium. Some individuals even took snacks to the venues for others. Goodluck Jonathan meanwhile refused to capitulate for some time until Senate President David Mark and some others waded in. His opponent knew all along though that his president would not dismantle protesters with force, and he would cave in to pressure eventually. They had studied him very well. Negotiations with the Nigerian Labour Congress as the main rally body were opened. After much back and forth, an agreement was reached. People called the Nigerian Labour Congress betrayers and attempted to continue the occupying nonsense, but woke up the next day to find soldiers occupying Ojota. Bakari said it was dictatorial. Everyone went back to work with fuel price now at 97 naira, a small victory, but the seeds that will overthrow Goodluck Jonathan had been sown already. Groups outlive Occupy Nigeria that became political force that worked against Goodluck Jonathan and PDP in 2015 with a mentality of we can defeat these guys. I almost forgot to mention small groups established in remote places that had built local reputation over the years and then linked up with Occupy Nigeria. One guy in Abuja who died some years back, David Uche, also was very useful in driving the protests in Abuja, in Kaduna, Kano, Bini, and so on. You also had these structures and persons all contributing to the effect of a government under siege. So when people think that this kind of things happen randomly because they saw it occur randomly, some of us smile and keep building structures. One can dissect even Arab Spring and show structures and persons in countries that have spent years in silence and darkness building the structure that suddenly sprung up to spearhead the overthrow of dictators. To some, this video and the position of issues are feeble. The masses want something hard and fast, but why do you think the powers that be fear them? Because no force on earth can stop an idea whose time has come and is rooted firmly in the minds of the masses. Anyway, I sometimes get tired of putting out videos, but I still enjoy it. But I will need your support to put out more videos in the weeks to come. So you have to like and subscribe and also comment in order for me to be able to put on more videos. But thank you for following through from the beginning to the end. And of course, do well to encourage me by subscribing to my channel. Until we meet again, this is Motherland.